What is that? Our intention is on the we want to throw an error whenever you don't write tax, whenever you don't add any tax amount. So how do we check? So for that, I want to write one activity. So why to write an activity? Why don't you go for what is that? Why don't you go for validation? Because validation also gives you whenever something is blank, right? Or you can go with those things, right? Why do you go for add a activity? Means see, in a particular form there can be multiple things, okay, or multiple properties which you have to do validation. So instead of creating that, we are going to using data transform. Okay, so now we are learning how to create or how to configure activities in data transform. Okay, so but when it should get executed? After submitting, it should get executed. After submitting or after completing this assignment, I want to trigger something. So as it is after submitting this, so what I do in the flow action, I'll go with post processing data transform here. So whenever I create a data transform or where I want to use a data transform in flow actions, okay, under action tab, best practice is add pre and post as their prefix. So here I didn't follow the best practice. Copy selected service I have written. You have to write pre-copy service data like that. You have to add that pre when there. So whenever you add like that, when we go to App Explorer and check data transform, you will understand that okay, this particular data transform is being written and in a flow action rule. Okay, so use that pre and post as prefixes. Okay, so what I do is now I write post validate. So what I have to do, I have to add one activity. What is that activity? We have an activity called as, okay, so for that, now I will go for px add message to property, or I'll say here can you see px add message to property. Okay, so let's open this. So what is this doing? Can you see it is written in Java code? So now in Java code it is using two values. One is property reference, one is message name. So if you have any issues with this, then definitely you have to write this. I mean, you have to check this. Okay, so what we'll be doing now? So these are the two parameters for this: property reference and message name. Okay, so I'll take these two properties. I'll go to my post validate stats, right? Here I'll write param dot property reference. So which property you are referencing? You are referencing tax. And then param dot message name. Value cannot be. Tax is a mandatory field. Now in the next one, we'll take param dot test. Okay, here you will be writing calling that activity. Which activity? This activity. So call. So to call activity in data transform, we got one function called as PxExecute an activity. This is function. Okay, this function has two parameters, primary, comma, and the property and the what is that? Activity name. Submit. Save. So when you do this, when you test this, it will throw an error only because nothing is, when I say primary, it doesn't know what that primary is. Okay, so definitely, and this px add message property needs parameters. Where are your parameters? You didn't give any parameters, so that's why it will throw an error. So don't worry about it. So now you created your that add message to property. So what this add message to property will do is it will add a message to the property in your clipboard. So let's see. Now it's running there. It is executed. So do you want to where is this? Do you want to trace it? Let's see whether it is being called or not. So service, continue. So display fare, submit. Can you see now? The flow action post processing rule failed, cannot be blank, invalid rule, sorry, referenced. I think flow action post processing has an error. Invalid value for a reference passed to invalid value for a reference passed to clipboard string comma char. Okay, tax is not can you see? Tax is a mandatory field. So problem was actually it is taking as a it should be a string actually. So I taken as a property over there. So that's why it is throwing an error. So we have to send it as a string. Okay. So yes, I have sent it as a string now. So now it is throwing an error saying that tax is a mandatory. Can you see now? Basically, if you don't give what it you should say, value cannot be blank and all those stuff it should give. It should have given. But now it is giving you a proper your own error thing, right? So still, if I give also, so still it is showing you, even though you have provided it, still it is showing you the this particular thing, tax amount as error. Okay, so how do I resolve this? Because it's a mandate, yes, of course it's a mandatory field, but I have given it, still it is throwing an error because I'm not checking whether tax is filled or not. I mean, tag is what do you say, is blank or not. So that's why what should I do is I have to create one thing on this. I have to add when rule, when dot tax is not equal to null. Okay, so that means what, if it is not null only you have to, or sorry, if it is equal to null only you have to add the thing. So I'm dropping as a child cases here. Child is steps. Submit. So it went successfully.